Afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 3 o'clock special budget work session, March 10th, 2026, here at Dennett Road. For the next hour, or close to that hour, we want to discuss our upcoming budget for next year and allow the Board of Education to discuss with the superintendent uh, some of the priorities that perhaps we have as board members, and listen to the priorities that she has listed for us, and see if there are any loopholes there that she can take with her before we get the proposed budget given to us. I think next month we'll get the proposed budget. April or May? May. Okay then, superintendent's all yours.
It's all mine. Thank you. Dr. Miller?
Let me finish. We need to approve the agenda since it is a, so I'll take the agenda. All those opposed, nay. It's approved. Now,
So, if the board members don't mind, I'm going to stay here rather than joining them at the table. But Mrs. Glodfelde, Dr. Miller, and I, along with the staff, have been working on the budget with some preliminary numbers and with some challenges and some strategies for moving forward. So I'm going to ask Dr. Miller to take us from there.
yes.
Is it working? Okay. All right. Well, good evening, or afternoon, I should say, because it's 3 o'clock. So our first slide details. There we go. Better? Yes? Okay. All right. So as we think about preparing for the fiscal 27 budget, we definitely want to be mindful of our system goals. So the first slide that you see gives the highlights of our goals. We certainly are striving to provide an appropriately rigorous and challenging instructional environment for our students, supported by high quality instruction. We value our partners in our community, and we're committed to fostering and strengthening those partners to enhance our educational opportunities. We're committed to providing a safe and caring learning environment, and we aim to be good stewards of the system resources as we plan and implement this budget. And then the last bullet, we are certainly committed to supporting our employees and maintaining a high quality and effective workforce. So those are just the overview of the goals for the school system. And then the next slide is one of our first priorities when we think about the fiscal 27 budget. We certainly need to consider salary and insurance for our employees. And you can see on this slide that we are planning for a 5.1% salary increase in line with our 3-year negotiated agreement. This is the 3rd year of that agreement that we're coming up on, and this would be for full-time employees. This increase will get us in line with the $60,000 minimum requirement for teachers when we think about the blueprint legislation. Then you can also see on this slide that we are planning for a 9.2% health insurance increase, and that is for the employee and employer. And these two items together, we are projecting to cost approximately $2.6 million. On the next slide, we're highlighting some of the instructional initiatives aligned with the budget for fiscal 27. At the top, you can see that we're intending to continue the driver's education program with an expected $25,000 in contracted service. This program has been very successful this school year that we initiated the program. Many students participating, and we would like to continue that. You'll also see an addition of AP Cybersecurity, which is some coursework at the high school level that we're looking at implementing going into next year. And we intend to use existing staff that we have at both high schools. So the cost would really be for the professional learning entailed with getting them prepared to teach the course. And then we also need to continue our work in the culinary arts classroom for the Northern High School. And again, that program this year is the first year of implementing that, but has been very successful, many students taking advantage of it. And our next step is to make sure that we have the classroom renovation complete. That is all going to be grant funded through the ARC grant and Perkins match. We're also looking at continuing summer programming, which will primarily be in person at the elementary level. There'll be some summer programming for high school as well, but those will be through a vendor type program like Eduseer. And then you can see our instructional materials laid out at the bottom. The math is the iReady license for 1st through 8th grade.
Can I ask a question about continuing summer programming?
Sure.
And certainly, I would say to all board members, if you have questions, just, let's make this a conversation.
Absolutely.
That's the same amount we put in for this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How do we assess the success of that?
So all of the principals completed a review of their summer programming and submitted it to Miss Ashby and we've looked through that, and basically we're looking for what went well, participation rates, who participated, and then also ways that we can strengthen it. We had pretty good participation going.
Are we targeting those students that we feel have a great need to be there?
Yes. So last year, the elementary schools did a combination of enrichment type activities as well as targeted intervention supports. And so on certain days, there were targeted students that were asked to come in, encouraged to come in to receive targeted support and tutoring. And those same students were also involved in the larger enrichment type days that the schools plan.
How long does it last?
Measure, but it did vary. We gave some flexibility to the schools to determine what that looked like for their school. But we tried to expand the length of the weeks that students were served and the frequency within the week that they were being served.
And do we, one more question, do we provide transportation?
We did not provide transportation as a expectation throughout the county. However, if a student, if that was a barrier for a student, some principals were able to work through that using Durangos and other means of transportation. But we didn't budget for it.
Do you collaborate that with just with the learning, the classroom bus, learning beyond the classroom bus? Is there any collaboration between what you're doing with this, that we could double up?
I'm not aware of any collaboration. Right.
Yeah, it might be something that families might explore if it's there and they see it. They want to know what this route, what the times are, the routes, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can look at that. I think that could be something we intentionally try to work through.
And then lastly, with the amount of money, and does it need to be increased, I guess?
So we braided funds to support summer programming last year. And what that entails is looking at some grant funding and our local funding. So we have right now 5 community schools. They get additional targeted funding to support wraparound services such as summer programming. And so all of the community schools, except for Broadford, use their community school funding to support their summer programming as well as tutoring throughout the year. Broadford, we did include an amount in this 75,000 just because of the per pupil student number being so high at Broadford and where they're at in the continuum of community school funding. So over the years, as we move forward, we're projected to see that number increase for them. And as the community school funding increases, we may be able to decrease the local amount that we put into that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me add on to that. Tom got most of my questions answered. But, about 3 years ago, there was a big concern about our summer programs, that they weren't serving enough kids and it wasn't a long enough period. So does this 75,000 and all the braided services, is that a significant increase from where we were 3 years ago? Or maybe it was 4.
Well, that's a little bit of a trick question.
Well, yeah.
Because 3 years ago, we were still in post-COVID time. And there was a requirement at that time, well, there was an agreement at that time to pay per diem in our salary.
Okay.
And so it's hard to compare apples to apples because the way it was implemented was different. So what I will say is we expanded the weeks in which students are getting served, and we expanded the frequency in which students are getting served. That was our goal, to align with best practice. It may not cost as much now because we went back to our normal negotiated agreement to do that. But I would say it's a more targeted approach and a more frequent delivery of instruction for the
So
students.
we're in a better place than we were 3 years ago.
I would say so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. So the instructional materials at the bottom just detail out the areas in which we're up to renew instructional materials for our schools and students. So English language arts for the secondary level, and you can see the projected amount that we're looking at, and then health for secondary.
Will some of this be paid for from funds that don't roll over into next year? Or
Carryover funds,
yeah,
is that what you
carryover
mean?
funds from last year? Or there's probably going to be carryover funds this year, right? So will we anticipate actually spending those funds on these type materials, one-time expenditures?
Yeah. Right now, my understanding of the plan is that we are budgeting in the fiscal 27 operating budget for these initiatives.
But you will also hear, Mr. Glodfeldy, that we are projecting the use of fund balance or carryover funds. Those are sometimes called both of those, that we're going to need to use some of those funds again this year.
So the next slide looks at staffing and student needs. And these are some of the areas that we're considering when we're developing the fiscal 27 budget. You can see there were 3 additional teachers requested at the elementary level. That request came from principals. We are anticipating an increase in need for special education services overall. And then you can also see that we're projecting an increase in non-public placement of about 225,000. That encompasses both the projection of need with the number of students and a 10% increase in the local share of what we're responsible for paying for a non-public placement. We're also looking at special education contracted services, projected increase of 110,000. That is primarily speech services and projecting out those services for the next year.
Is that because we don't have enough speech therapists? Contract.
Yes,
Didn't we
it's
do that
because
out of
we have a
Bridgeport or somewhere?
split model of full-time employee
Yeah.
speech therapists as well as contracted services speech therapists. Yeah.
On the non-public placement, are these in-state placements or is it out of state?
The ones that we're referencing here are in-state.
In-state. And do they stay in Garrett County or do they go other places in the state?
Most frequently, it's Shepherd Pratt,
Okay,
which is Allegheny.
right. Gets expensive.
Yes.
I have a question about your first bullet point for the 3 additional teachers at the elementary level. What's the reason for that? Classroom size or behaviors?
I believe they were in intervention. And some of our very small schools have split positions, and they are inquiring about having full-time positions for intervention.
And are you allowed to share what 3 schools you're at? Well, the 3 additional teachers.
Route 40, Friendsville, and I'm blanking on the third one. Do you remember? Wasn't Yockley. Accident. I would say accident if I
Okay.
as a. And you'll see later on down this particular slide that all of these requests will be considered as we look at enrollment at all of our schools. We look at student needs and our staffing guidelines. We've put together those staffing guidelines several years ago. They've served us very well in supporting our schools, and so we will look at that as we're developing our staffing plan. And the other thing that we are expecting as we develop the staffing plan, there certainly could be movement occur based on these first 4 bullet points. However, at the end of the day, we are anticipating and expecting to have a reduction of 3 positions to the total budget.
Have you analyzed what those are yet?
We have some preliminary analysis and one that has, do you want to go ahead? Yeah, okay.
We have one that we've already moved forward with, and that was an administrative position that we have transferred from a central office position to a school position. So we've already really looked at one position, and we'll continue to look at positions. We are down 70 students this year as we're developing this budget from the previous year. So it's in the 70 range. So we need to look at positions to be sure that we can be as efficient and effective as we can be.
Thank you.
The next slide is for the capital projects. The very first one, we anticipate completing phase 2 of the Broadford project, pre-K to 6. The next project's the Route 40 solar and decarbonization. This is to be funded with grants. The third project, Northern High elevator, we anticipate a BOE spend of about $200,000 for that. The Northern High Culinary Arts Lab will be hopefully finished, and this will be with grant funding as well. And then the Northern High Field House, there will be a BOE spend of that of either 35% of the total cost up to $350,000. And also there will also Crellin Elementary educational specifications. And then lastly, the Yocklades parking lot improvement, A&E, there will be a BOE spend of $50,000 for that project.
Questions? Any
I have
of those?
I
Yes,
have a
Dawn.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to ask about the Crellin Elementary specifications. What does that entail? Just plans to look at the school and what's needed at the school?
Yeah. And that will be funded through state and county funding. So it won't hit our local budget.
It'll be about 5,000 of local funding, and we would expect about 95,000, I believe, Bobby, of IAC funding to begin looking at what this, the first step that you have to go through is to decide how many classrooms you want, to look at the property and look at the space and the needs.
And will that go out for bid
Yes.
for the person to do that?
Probably through the RFP process.
Okay, thank you.
John?
So, I guess it was a year ago, we were discussing possibly closing accident. And one of the things that came up at the time is the roof was going to need to be replaced. And as a matter of some urgency. And I don't believe I see anything in here about the roof.
No, the projects that are on here are what the board approved as we approved the CIP in probably September or October. The roof project for accident is on the CIP, but they looked at that and made a decision that we could wait a little while to do that. So it's still on the CIP, but I believe it's 2 years out. Don't quote me on the 2 years. I don't have that. I do have it in front of me, but I can look if you'd like me
No,
to. Okay. It is still on the list of projects in the CIP.
Okay. And then, we're going to spend $50,000 to have somebody draw up how to expand a parking lot? I would think you could pave it for $50,000 personally.
Well, I think in addition to just paving this parking lot, if you're at Yacht Glades, we have had some problems with buses and traffic control. So there is a plan to also look at how to remedy some of those problems rather than just paving the existing parking lot. Bobby?
Okay, well, as soon as you start talking about stormwater, no wonder the bill goes up. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Do you want to speak to the field house meeting we had yesterday, just public record?
Yes.
'Cause I thought it went extremely well.
I did too. We did have a meeting with some of our community members from the northern high school area, northern end of the county. They are very interested in building a field house at the northern high school property. In addition to that, they want to build space for 2 batting cages, which would allow us to take them out of the existing gymnasium, which would make it better for volleyball because the volleyball players won't be hitting the batting cages. So what the committee decided last night, or at least we talked about, and they're working with Bobby Witt on developing some plans, is to continue to raise funds to build both the field house and the 2 batting cage areas. They had a good group of people who were very committed to seeing this project through, so I agree. It was a good meeting.
And the 35% is in line with what the Board of Education gave to the Southern End folks who built the field house at Southern. Southern's ended up costing, I think, roughly $990 some thousand. So that's why the 350 is the max that we would go. But 35% of whatever the cost of the contract is. So, but yeah, I thought it went extremely well, and they're very excited about it. So hopefully something will happen quickly to Northern End as well.
Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
the batting cage area isn't that complicated, right?
No, it's just
Just a
open
storage area.
space. Yeah, it's just open space,
Yeah.
basically.
Shouldn't cost that much.
So on to the next slide. This is a slide of the fiscal 27 preliminary aid. It's the state and local share. We anticipate receiving about 57.7 million in unrestricted funding split between the state and local, about 2.17 million from COP funding, which is restricted, and then for a total of 59.9 million of state and local funding, both unrestricted and restricted. I do want to point out there was a revision from this slide in the pre-K state revenue amount of 115,737. The state had included the private pre-K amount in the total number, so it needed to be backed out. And then I just want to point out that we are at level funding. Our operating budget from state and local money is siloed in funding blueprint programs, and it's also restricted due to MSF spending at the school level. And just as an example, for pre-K, per pupil allotment from the comparison from fiscal 26 to 27, the fiscal 26 amount was $14,473. The fiscal 27 amount is $19,950. So that's up $5,477 per pupil. But when you look at the foundation amount for fiscal 26, it was $9,226. And in fiscal 27, it's $9,561, which is $335 per pupil increase. So that kind of gives you a perspective of what we're looking at for next year.
It's interesting. Questions? Anyone about preliminary aid? Still nothing on disparity grants.
No.
Haven't heard anything about them.
And any questions? No. So the next slide is just basically a summary, high level of the other slide. Again, about 59.9 million between unrestricted and restricted funding.
What strategies are we looking at in order to try to balance, not try to balance the budget? By law, we must have a balanced budget, and we will. So steps that we're taking, Dr. Miller already noted that we are looking at positions very carefully, having already eliminated one administrative position. We have been meeting with all departments. They've had a wonderful time meeting with us. As we sat there and said, so let me get my red pen. But we have seriously been analyzing every department's request. Those meetings have happened with Dr. Miller and Mrs. Glotfeldy and me to look very carefully where can we cut, and also recognizing that we need to consider inflation. We're also looking at our budget because we do have not a fantastic fund balance, but we have a fund balance. So we are looking at some projects that we might in the past have asked the commissioners to fund. And we're looking at those in our budget as capital projects that we can fund through our fund balance as one-time expenses. The other things that we're doing, we are moving forward with the solar project. That's a long-term savings. I don't expect that we'll have any major savings in that category next year. But we are trying to be good stewards of the system and looking long-term as well as short-term. The other thing that we have discussed is continuing to review our healthcare cost and managing our increases in any way that we can. We do know that our workforce, all of us contributing to that we trend pretty well in our healthcare expenses. The problem is that the industry itself is not trending well, but we also need to recognize that a 9–10% increase, which this year will cost about $623,000 in that ballpark, that's just not sustainable for us over time. So we have to really look carefully at reviewing those health care costs for the future. So, next slide. Please. As was said earlier, between state and local revenue sources, we have flat funding for next year. In addition to that, for this current fiscal year, we had a $1.8 million disparity grant. We have no indication that that disparity grant is going to be available to the school system. It's not in any legislation anywhere that any of us can find. So, since that is the case, and since it is the case that we need to continue to develop well as a system to serve our students, we need to plan to ask our local government to increase aid to the Garrett County Public Schools beyond what the state minimum is. And right now, we are projecting that we would be asking the county government for an increase of $1.5 million beyond what the state says they must provide to the school system. We have looked at, of course, other counties, and this need to go above the minimum, for one thing, was really predicted when the blueprint started, that this was going to need to happen. Most counties went beyond the minimum some time ago. There were at least 16 counties that are above the minimum that the state requires. And to serve our students and staff well, we plan on April 21st, I believe, is our presentation to the county commissioners to request a $1.5 million. I'm saying $1.5 million today, and I'm hoping that we're able to keep it at $1.5 million by April 21st. April 21st at 4 o'clock. That's what we need to do. Questions?
We've got a few minutes left, 25 minutes.
So your budget that you currently put forth here is predicated on getting that 1.5 million from the county commissioner. I mean,
Yes.
I hope we can get it.
Yes. To do everything that we need to do, and as we get into the budget line by line item, I believe the board will see that this team, those folks, these folks, that we have looked very carefully at what it is we need to maintain the success that we have.
I agree.
Yeah. The thing, one of the things that impacts is we are actually getting less money per student next year from the state than we got this year. It doesn't matter whether I like the formula that the state uses or not. It is their formula, and it's based on a lot of things, including wealth of the county. So,
Dr. Carney,
mhm.
so what you just said, with what you just said, that we're getting less per pupil funding, is that the trend also moving forward?
I believe that will be the case from the state.
Right.
From the state.
Based on the
Yes.
formula.
Yes, based on the formula.
Well, the state's looking to save money right now because of their budget problems. So hopefully, we were sort of immune from that last year. And, I don't think we can hold that hope out in, future years.
If I can find a paper, I'll add something to that.
Yeah, while you're doing that, this might be for Dr. Mangus. Special education, anticipated costs, increase of cost, is that because of the nature of the cost of the service, or is it because we're identifying more special education students? Thank you.
So in some state aid numbers that I was reviewing again today, the state aid to Garrett County per student is $9,531. The state average is $11,310. With some counties or systems receiving $18,734 per student. Our average per pupil cost per student for this year is close to 18,000 if I just look at state and local. So in some ways, there are some folks in the state that are getting more per pupil or as much per pupil from just state money. And that formula has been in existence for a long time and debated since I was here 30 years ago. But it is the way the state operates in making those decisions.
Yeah, it's always a formula, right?
Right.
Other questions, people? Anybody about preliminary figures and expectations? Certainly, I'm sure we'll have a lot more once we see the proposed budget, so we can look at line by line, yeah, what it looks like in terms of these priorities. Okay. Thank all of you who had a role in presenting this for us. We do appreciate your time and efforts. With that being said, I guess we can read our script and get into executive. Guess we could wait 3 minutes for although we say we're not held to that time.
That's about it.
Come back. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see anybody. Sure. We are holding today's meeting at the Dennett Road Educational Complex. At the moment, there are no public comments to be presented. The board will go into executive session following the reading of this announcement. Return at 6 p.m. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions Article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there are 2 reasons the board will go into closed session this evening: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. To conduct collective bargaining, negotiations, consider matters that relate to negotiations. Specifically, the topics tonight will be 3-305B1, topic including certificated staffing recommendation and update, 3-305B9, topic including healthcare rate update. The reason these topics be discussed in closed session instead of open session is follows. The personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they are included in a discussion of specific employees, which is confidential employment matter. Negotiation topics pursuant to 3-305B9 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because of the board will be conducting collective bargaining negotiations or considering matters that relate to negotiations. With that being said, are there any objections to the board going into executive session? Hearing none, there's a motion to do so. So moved by Don. Second by Sadie. Discussion? All those in favor of going into executive session? Today we are in executive. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regularly scheduled March 10th Board of Education meeting here at the Dennett Road Educational Complex. First order of business will be a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student members. So those of you in attendance, please stand. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a motion to approve the public session agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Rodney, seconded by Don. Questions, concerns? All those in favor of the agenda then, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Approval of the consent agenda, motion? So moved by Don,
Second.
seconded by Jane.
No.
No, say, was it Sadie? Seconded by Sadie. All those in favor of the consent agenda as given to us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Closed session summaries and announcements are on our Board of Education website, and I certainly would encourage everyone to look at that if you have questions. I'll ask the superintendent to announce one of our personnel hires that we just had a consent agenda to do.
Okay, we were just discussing this very thing. And let me turn on my mic. We are very pleased to announce, certainly with the support of the board and our professional community, the appointment of Mrs. Donna Ashby as the Chief Academic Officer for Garrett County Public Schools.
Congratulations. We know you'll do a wonderful job. Okay, let's move on to policies and procedures. That is being presented by Mrs. Ashby.
Good evening. I'm here to present the updates for the Fine Arts Advisory Committee policy procedure. Both documents were revised due to align with our new format as they were previously in the old format. As part of the update, a purpose statement was added to the procedure and a purpose, scope, and responsibilities were added to the policy. Each were pulled from the existing policy and procedures.
Any questions about the Fine Arts Advisory Committee policy procedure revision? All three of these policy procedures will be a part of the consent agenda next month. JEB enrollment policy and procedure revision.
Okay. The next policy and procedure that I'm presenting this evening is the JEB enrollment. In addition to updating the documents into the new format, we had incorporated new requirements related to the enrollment. Over the past 3 years, we've been blessed to expand our pre-K3 classrooms across the county, which aligns to our blueprint goals. Because pre-K eligibility has specific requirements, we wanted to ensure parents and guardians have a clear understanding of how students qualify. As part of the updates, we have updated general enrollment procedures. In doing so, we improved language and added in the policy the purpose, scope, and responsibilities. In the procedure, we explained the implementation of the process by including purpose, background, and requirements.
Questions? Anyone? Okay. And lastly, JEBA pre-kindergarten enrollment policy procedures.
With JEBA, pre-kindergarten policy and procedure, we are recommending they be retired. As the content has been consolidated into JEB that we just previously talked about with the enrollment policy and procedure, that we just discussed. This consolidation helps streamline our policies and procedures and ensures that all enrollment and related information, including pre-K, is located within a single policy and procedure.
Questions? Concerns about enrollment policy for pre-kindergarten procedure? Okay. Once again, those will be part of our consent agenda if there are any questions before we adopt them. Let's move on to continuing business, elementary ELA curriculum. This is an action item tonight.
Yeah. So last month, Mrs. Moss presented on the elementary ELA instructional materials. I would like to share a few updates and key points. Magnetic literacy instructional materials for grades K through 5 demonstrate several key strengths and support effective literacy instruction. The program is grounded in science of reading and provides explicit instruction and foundational skills through a clear lesson structure. It also features knowledge-rich content that supports both student engagement and comprehension. These components create a comprehensive literacy program and aligns with our comprehensive literacy plan, supports our letters training that our teachers have received, and aligns with newly revised standards that will be implemented this fall. And it fits into our MTSS framework. From a financial standpoint, I want to point out this change. It is great news. We initially budgeted $600,000 for these materials, and the final cost came in under budget at $452,000, while still providing teachers and students with the high-quality instructional resources needed to be successful. We did have some feedback. I think you all received those comments. I kind of summarized them so those who did not have them would know what they said. The feedback came from some of our teachers who reviewed and piloted the materials. The overall responses were very positive. Some teachers reported the program includes rigorous and engaging texts that build both knowledge and comprehension skills. They highlighted the strong scaffolding that supports students in developing foundational literacy and writing skills through structured, step-by-step instruction. They also noted improvements in student writing, including stronger organization, deeper ideas, and clearer and clear expression. Additionally, teachers found the materials to be highly user-friendly with well-organized resources and built-in supports for streamlining planning to meet the needs of diverse learners. Overall, the teacher feedback indicated that the program supports both effective instruction and improved student achievement.
Okay, Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is to approve magnetic literacy by Curriculum Associates for the elementary students English Language Arts program.
Okay, the superintendent is asking us to approve this evening the elementary ELA curriculum, magnetic reading that was presented to us last month.
Make the motion,
Yes.
make a
I will
motion
need a
to
for that.
approve the elementary ELA curriculum as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to approve the elementary ELA curriculum as presented. Questions, concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is approved. Grades 6 through 8 science curriculum. It's also an action item tonight.
Mr. Woods.
Good evening. I'm here seeking board approval of the Savas Experience Science Instructional Material for grades 6 through 8. Last month, I highlighted some of the strengths, which included alignment to the next generation science standards and supports for teachers and students. Since the last board meeting, the materials have been on display in Oakland and Grantsville, and no comments were received during that time.
Madam Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, my recommendation is to approve the recommended science program, Experience Science for grades 6 through 8th, as presented last month.
Okay, superintendent is asking us to approve grades 6 through 8 science curriculum that was presented to us last month. Is there a motion? Move to approve by Rodney.
Second.
Seconded by Jane. Discussion? All those in favor of the grades 6 through 8 science curriculum that's been presented to the board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is approved. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guidelines for public comment. I don't think we have any. Didn't see any out there. Mark, you want to check? I don't see anybody who would want to talk. But we'll do our due diligence. Okay. We will now move on to the approval of the auditor for school year 2025-26. And I think the superintendent's going to make that recommendation. This is an action item.
Yes, you have a memo from Mrs. Ashley Glodfeldy to continue to retain Rhoda Haber Associates as our auditor for the coming year. There was no increase in cost, so not only because of that, but I do like no increase in cost. My recommendation is to retain the Rhoda Haber Group LLC to complete the fiscal year 2026 annual audit.
Okay, superintendent's asking us to approve Rhoda Haber and Associates LLC for our audit for school year 25-26. Is there a motion? So moved by Don. Second by Sadie. Discussion? All. That's PC. Rhoda Haber and Associates PC instead of LLC. All those in favor of the motion to adopt Rhoda Haber and Associates PC as our auditor for 25-26, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is adopted. And before I give the student member a chance to speak, I will tell you the superintendent just told me that Southern is ahead by 1 point at halftime.
Yes. Good ball.
All right, now it's yours, Katie.
That kind of segues into mine. So for student reports, I was going to basically say I know we all wish we could have been there tonight, but the girls basketball team is at the state semifinals tonight. So no matter the outcome, let's make sure to just tell them a good job. Moving on, this last week, several of our elementary schools celebrated the Read Across America Week. And then several of our FLL teams in the county were headed to states. The Northern High School FFA participants competed in this past weekend in various students. There were so many different categories, but they all did amazingly, most of which placed first through fifth within their numerous categories. Moving on, Broadford, I got to speak with some of the students. They are working really hard on their Be the Change and the Random Acts of Kindness projects, contributing directly to the community. I know a lot of students have an interest in helping out Heart, and also contributing to our police stations and helping them out. And then Northern Middle School, a few students will be headed to UMBC to compete at the state level with their National History Day projects. And for a total, Garrett County has raised around $47,000 for unified sports during the Cool Schools Dunk. So that is an amazing thing. I just would like to give the students a round of applause. That's a great number. And then moving on, I just realized I have a typo in my report. But Student Council, we had our February 12th General Assembly. For our service project, we made wooden roses for healthcare workers and patients. And April 9th, we will be having our last General Assembly to elect our new officers, and then just congratulate a year well done. As far as myself, next week I'm headed off to Ocean City with several other students. We did have over 100% increase in Garrett County representation at the state level for our student councils, which is also a job well done. And we will be at a convention. And then just another note, I know Dr. McCartney will probably talk about this, but this Saturday we will be having the Garrett County Arts Fair from 9 to 3 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center, and there will be several students showcasing their artwork, so make sure to go there.
Okay. Any questions for Cadence? All right. Thank you, Cadence. Now I guess we'll go to board member updates. Anybody have any updates they want to share? We'll go to the superintendent's updates then.
I have a request to go before Cadence in the future. She does.
Request denied.
She does a wonderful job of updating and highlighting all of the wonderful work of our students. Thank you, Cadence. So I'm going to talk about something really exciting that you're going to be reading about soon, and that is an ethics panel. We will be seeking applications from county residents interested in serving on the Garrett County Board of Education Ethics Panel. And this panel will function in an advisory capacity to our elected Board of Education. The panel will meet annually to review financial disclosure statements and will convene as needed to consider any complaints or requests for advisory opinions. We will be putting a release out soon that will provide more information, and there will also be an application form with that release. And the board plans to appoint members to the panel at our June board meeting. So, other reminders, as Cadence already said, I'm skipping a couple things on my list, but the Student Arts Fair is an absolutely amazing showcase of our student talent. That will be held this Saturday, March the 14th at the Performing Arts Center from 9 to 2:30, and it is a great way to spend the day. Couple reminders for parents who must plan their calendars. March 25th is a Staff Development Day, and students will be dismissed 3 hours early on that day. And please remember, April 3rd, schools are closed. That is Good Friday. Offices are closed on Good Friday. Monday, April the 6th, we will be holding school. That is one of our makeup days for inclement weather. The last thing that I will highlight is that we are scheduling in early April 2 coffees with the superintendent. The first is scheduled for April the 7th at Northern Middle School in the community room in the morning from 8:15 to 9:30. The second is scheduled for Friday, April the 10th here at Dennett Road from 8:15 to 9:30. I would urge members of the community to please come in, meet, and talk informally, mainly with Dr. Miller, who is our next superintendent, about the school system, about the budget, and her vision for Garrett County Public Schools. Parents, guardians, community members, anyone is certainly welcome to attend and meet Dr. Miller in a more personal way.
Questions for the superintendent? Any comments? Any questions? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Jane. Seconded by Don. All those in favor of adjourning public session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed nay, and we are adjourned, and it's 6:19.